All right, hi everybody. It's Joe Cioffi here on this Sunday evening as you could be sitting here watching the Jet game, and everybody's rooting for them to lose because they want to get the number one draft pick, and then they'll wind up picking a tight end instead of a quarterback. Yeah. But no matter. We are going to take a look at this live stream as we did this morning. I'm going to do two separate live streams. We will do Jose on this one, and then we will deal with Hurricane Maria on the second one. So if you guys could just let me know you can hear me okay, and I think you can see me okay. I just took a quick peek at the box, and all the boxes are up in Brady Bunch style. So I think we're good. And let me just get your chat window up so I can see you all speaking to me. And we'll get it going here. So just give me 1 second. There you go. Here's your chat box. Okay, thank you, Sean. And hi to Jake and Fallen Angel. Tina M is here. So all the newcomers, remember, it's Jose on this one and Maria on the next one. Gypsy2112 is on. Good to see you here. So let's start off. I'll start first with the wide view of Jose, and we will take a look at how Jose is behaving with respect to the surrounding area. The hurricane has actually picked up a little bit more strength today as a reconnaissance aircraft has gone on in there and found 90-mile-an-hour winds and a pressure down to 967 millibars. It's moving. It's kind of doing a slow crawl to the north. There hasn't really been much variation in that course. On some hours you see it kind of take a slight jog to the east, and then it takes a slight jog to the west. So the net motion has been to the north. You can see along the coast, by the way, we've got low clouds just offshore, and they're going to probably come back in again, much like they did during the overnight Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then they'll burn off on Monday because there's a lot of dry air up to the northwest, and that's the game we're going to play here. And Jose is going to continue to move to the north until it gets very, very close to the south shore of Long Island, at which point it'll take a jog to the east. So let's review with regards to what's happening with watches, because tropical storm watches have been posted for a good chunk of the exposed area of the Northeast from coastal Delaware up to southeastern Massachusetts. And you'll see it here on the forecast graphic. The Hurricane Center's forecast is just kind of nudged it to the west, but don't focus on the center so much, because this is gradually starting to look more and more like an extratropical cyclone. So you're going to see the wind field expand. Instead of having a tight area of winds near the center, you'll have a larger area of gales, and maybe not so much in terms of really strong winds. But the Hurricane Center keeps it a hurricane through 2 p.m. Tuesday, and then has it right at 40 and 70, 40 degrees north, 70 degrees west by 2 p.m. Wednesday. And then you can see it starts to drop southeastward and southward toward the end of the period, as the weather models are fairly uniform in orchestrating a loop. The European model is the tightest with the loop. It doesn't even get it too far east of 70 west before it starts to turn it south and then southwestward. But it's the first initial pass that's going to be problematic in terms of rain and wind. The second pass, as it turns and loops, assuming it completes the loop and remains as an intact low, you're going to have coastal flooding issues probably for the rest of the week and into the weekend, particularly with the new moon and the autumnal equinox this week. So the tides are going to be out of whack. So let me say quick hellos to Veronica, who's on. And Phil, are you on? You yes. On? Phil's on. My buddy Phil Buzz. If you're on Facebook, you know meteorologist Phil Buzz, the all-shore correspondent, is sitting here watching the Jets lose. And hi to Coops Kiss, Nadia Post, Hosea, AB, Father Simeon is here. Hi, Father. Isaiah Jacob is here. Alcina, Alvin, Kyle, the weather guy. Raymond is here, still looking to look for hurricanes to roll up to I-90. No, it did not. Raymond, it's not going to come up I-87 to the I-90 corridor. Robert Russo, PRJ Grudge, Delvin, Zachary, Chris O'Shaughnessy. So we got a nice crowd here today. Veronica says hi, by the way. And Phil says hi back. He's sitting on the couch watching the Jet game. Okay, so you see this in the area in yellow is the Tropical Storm Watch, and that's from Cape Henlopen, Delaware, up the New Jersey coast to New York City, Long Island, South Coastal Connecticut, and then on east across Rhode Island, Nantucket, and the islands in southeastern Massachusetts on up to about Cape Cod. So all of that under a Tropical Storm Watch. Notice there are no hurricane watches because this is not going to be making a landfall. Sean, thank you so much for hitting the super chat with a nice contribution for a cigar. And yes, we are going to have one at Belmont. If I can get around, for Championship Day, maybe if I'm around on that Saturday, I'll come down. I'm not sure when it is. Hopefully, it's not. It's the first Saturday in October, I believe. So I will be back for that. I think it's the 6th. So I might be able to go down, be down for that. But thank you again for hitting the super chat. Okay, so Thomas Pinoza, seems like Hurricane Center is favoring the GFS track for their forecast. I guess they're kind of leaning that way. The European is a little bit further to the west. The GFS, wants to turn it to the right pretty fast. The European is being very stubborn. The NAM is being very stubborn. The UCMED is being very stubborn. So the GFS is kind of on its own with and the Canadian also kind of turning it out to the east. Although the Canadian makes the pass, the other difference is that the Canadian model doesn't loop it. It just sends it out to the east, which would actually be the easy thing to have happen. So here's we'll go now to the tight satellite view of Jose, and we'll take a look at how it's progressed today. And you're going to notice that there's a bit of a change in the look in terms of the structure of Jose. It doesn't have that sort of circular look to it. It's not really that symmetric. It's starting to look more like a comma. And this is the signature of a tropical system that is starting to transition over into some sort of mix or a hybrid, and then eventually going to an extratropical or non-tropical storm. So, I'm thinking in terms of conditions with regards to this, they're going to be like a nor'easter. This is not going to be a hurricane-like experience. It's going to be more of a nor'easter-like experience, and that means that the strongest winds and the heavier rains are going to be confined to coastal areas. So if you're in New Jersey, I want to be clear about this, okay? If you're in New Jersey, east of the Garden State Parkway, up from Cape May all the way to Monmouth County, on that area east, you're going to experience some heavy rains, maybe a couple of inches of rain, maybe a little bit more than that, and winds that could be every bit of 30 to 40 miles an hour with gusts up to 50 or even 60, not impossible in some places. Okay, if you're north and west of that line and you go up into western New Jersey, northwest New Jersey, you're going to get far less in the way of rain. It might be breezy, but it's not going to be anything like it will be on the coast. You would, if I didn't tell you there was a tropical storm offshore, you wouldn't even know it. So that, and the same applies as we go east from New York City. If you go north into the Hudson Valley, once you get north of 287 and go on up northward, much less rain. Some, breezy, but nothing crazy. South coastal Connecticut, south of 95, and Long Island, you're going to have nor'easter conditions, much like the conditions you have in Jersey. The rain, I think, may be heavier for eastern Long Island, may wind up with, 3 or 4 inches of rain or maybe a bit more. Same for southeastern Connecticut and on up into Rhode Island and Nantucket, those islands, and southeastern Mass. But go north and west of there, and it's really not going to be that big a deal. So just please bear that in mind, because that part of the equation people may not be listening to. Okay, so they're hearing tropical storm watch, and they're hearing a tropical storm watch with a hurricane out there, and they get confused. And I know I'm going to get somebody that's going to say, say something regarding it wasn't all that bad. Well, you know what? This is from of the things that you could have happen. This is going to be an inconvenience, but it will be manageable. There'll be some issues, but they won't be anything major. Okay. The only issue, the only thing I just want to put out there is coastal flooding, because of the fact that it's doing this loop, and because of the fact that we have the high tides, the astronomical high tides later this week with the autumnal equinox and with the new moon, that and Jose doing this weird loop trying to come back toward the coast on some of the models, that if that happens, that there could be some moderate to maybe even pockets of severe coastal flooding as we move toward Thursday and Friday and maybe even into Saturday. Here are the hurricane track models. You can see they all do a loop of one form or another. Some of the loops are tighter, some are wider. Only one model seems to want to carry it out to the east, but the whole looping idea is there. And there's a bit of a lag time here. So this is the 12Z package of hurricane track models, even though the time that's issued there is 18Z. That's actually the 12Z package. So there may be a more updated package coming up a little later this evening. So what are we expecting here? Not much has really changed in terms of the overall approach with regard to, whoops, I lost my, there we go. I saved my tropical tidbits. Okay, so let's show you, nothing's really changed too much in terms of what the models have been doing today. So we're going to bring up the weather models here for you, and let me get the Interact on. Make sure we have the latest model run. We're going to have the new GFS out for the entire event here, so we'll be able to see it. And let me put it up to the top of the screen so it blocks out everything else. And here we go. Okay, so here's the new GFS. The 18Z run has some of these runs have been shifting to the right a little bit, some to the left. Looks like the 18Z may have shifted again a bit to the right. It does bring rain up into inland areas north and northwest. The GFS starts to move at north-northeast by Tuesday evening. The strongest gradient on the GFS remains offshore, so it has a bit more of a makes the northeast movement a little bit sooner, and we're going to wind it up southeast of Cape Cod, and then it just kind of brings it to a crashing halt there and starts that move southward and then southwestward. So this is where I'm concerned with respect to the coastal flooding as to what happens with this. Now notice that it's very weak. I mean, it really weakens as it does this. So that's one saving grace here. So that may mitigate some of the coastal flooding. You'll notice to the south, that's Hurricane Maria in the northeastern Bahamas. With Jose dropping into this position, it's creating a trough, and it's going to weaken the ridge along the east coast. So that may create an opening for Maria to move itself into a position maybe not that different from where Jose is right now. So very, very complex dance that's going on here with these tropical systems. You have the Irma trough to impact Jose. Jose is going to impact Maria. The three storms are going to be intricately linked for history when meteorologists write this. And you might also look back in that Harvey may have impacted Irma to some degree. When the Harvey remnants were going by to the northeast. I don't quite remember how the 500s, the upper air set up with that, but I'm sure somebody's going to look at it, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it plays. The afternoon model runs, I'll show you the Europeans view, and it'll pop up. Let me just change the sector and get rid of these colors. And here we go. So we have it here at the end, by the way. That's Jose, and Maria is further south. Not quite to the end, but getting there. But I'll take you to the end here. Remember, we only have these in 24-hour increments as opposed to 6-hour increments of the GFS. But you can see Jose's track on the European kind of doing this coiling northward motion. It never really gets it much beyond 70 degrees west. It gets it to about 40 and 70. This is its closest pass. The European is indicating 50 to 60 mile-an-hour winds for the New Jersey coast and for the South Shore and east end of Long Island, but the strongest winds just offshore. PRJ Grudge, thanks for hitting Super Chat. I really appreciate it. That's another cigar or a cup of coffee for me. Thank you very much. That's really very kind of you. So here's on the European. It doesn't, like I said, it barely gets it beyond 70 west, and you can see it drops it southwestward and actually has a remnant low going into Chesapeake Bay. But Maria now was affected by this, and on the European at least, it wants to drive it up the east coast, almost in the same spot that Jose is in. So this is actually, I think, in many years, one of the more fascinating scenarios that I've seen with regards to tropical storm activity. All these storms basically interacting with each other, and a big ridge of high pressure in the east instead of a trough. This is very unusual. And I'm going to take you through the upper air now on the European. And you've got a ridge here of high pressure in the east. The jet stream is pulled way up in Canada, so it can't go out. You've got the remnant trough of Irma sitting in western Pennsylvania and extending down into the Carolinas, so that winds up picking it up. Jose is punched through the Atlantic Ridge. Up the coast it comes, and you can see the upper feature very, very close to the coast. Comes to a grinding halt, opens up the trough down off the Bahamas. You can see the ridge is weakening now and allows Maria to come up, and there it goes. And then Jose rotates back westward, the upper feature, and acts as a sort of the leverage arm to lift Maria up northeast up the coast. Almost an identical track to what we're seeing Jose on this run. Of course, we all know what the rule is. After day 5 or 6, models get squirrely. So this is subject to change. If the loop does not occur, if it winds up getting kicked out to the east, then there'll be no trough, and there'll be a big high instead. And that may cause Maria to wind up going further to the west. If the loop does happen, that opens the alleyway for Maria to move up the east coast. So let me just summarize everything here with regards to where we're going with this. Jose, weather conditions will be fine through Monday and in through at maybe the first half of Monday night. Southern areas will start to see their weather deteriorate Monday night, spreading northward through New Jersey and Long Island by Tuesday morning. There'll be some rain. There'll be some wind. It'll be like a wintertime nor'easter. The winds will get strong right along the immediate coast. If you are just inland, north and west of the coast, Garden State Parkway in New Jersey from Monmouth County to Cape May, from north and west of there, you're going to see much less. And if you get far enough north and west, you wouldn't even know there was a tropical storm sitting out in the coastal waters nearby. Hudson Valley, north of 287. Connecticut, north of I-95, or if you want to be safe, north of Route 15, the Merritt Parkway. Also, weather conditions, the severity of weather conditions are going to diminish considerably as you move northward. Along the coast, it'll get a little rough sometimes, a little noisy with the wind. That might have some impact. You might not want to have loose stuff lying around, because then you have to go find it afterward. But, in terms of what you might expect if this were a hurricane coming in, it will be a completely different, it will not be that experience, okay? The only way things could change from that respect is if it winds up that this thing gets tucked into the coast more, and only a couple of models do that, and they're not the reliable models that I normally would use. So unless we get something that's really tucked in, we should be okay, and for the most part, and we'll just deal with it. We'll deal with whatever it is we got to deal with. So okay, so we've done with Jose here. Next is Hurricane Maria. We will live stream Maria in 40 minutes at 7 o'clock. So we'll go over what's going on with Maria, which I think is going to become a major hurricane. We've had hurricane watches expanded for a number of the Leeward Islands and also for the Virgin Islands as well, U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Some islands in the leewards have now gone to a warning. Additional tropical storm warnings have been posted. So we're going to go over all of that at 7 o'clock on the Maria live stream. Saying hi to Stan, Anish. Just want to make sure I get everybody. ABC Lou is there. Hi, Louis. Thomas Pinola. If I said hi to you before, you get 2 hellos. Scott, Kyle Lisa, and of course Delvin, who always makes sure that my audio is working good. So let's. I'm going to stop it here. Back at 7 o'clock with the latest on Hurricane Maria.